January 1968. For years, Americans had been told that the war in Vietnam was under control, that progress was steady, that victory was only a matter of time. Vietnam felt distant, both geographically and emotionally. For many Americans, the war existed mainly as headlines, charts, and brief television reports. But then, in a matter of weeks, that sense of certainty collapsed. Not because the United States suddenly lost on the battlefield, but because millions of Americans began to realize that the story they had believed was incomplete. This moment would come to be known as the Tet Offensive, and it would fundamentally change how America understood the war in Vietnam. By late 1967, U.S. officials spoke confidently about the situation in Vietnam. Military briefings emphasized stabilized front lines. Enemy strength, they said, was declining. Public statements suggested that the conflict was entering its final phase. These messages were reinforced by numbers: territory held, operations completed, progress measured in statistics. From a distance, the war appeared manageable. Most Americans did not experience it directly. They relied on official reports and limited media coverage to understand what was happening thousands of miles away. Few imagined that a single event could so dramatically challenge this narrative. But beneath the surface, the reality on the ground was far more complex. In late January 1968, during the Lunar New Year, known as Tet, a coordinated wave of attacks unfolded across South Vietnam. The timing was shocking. Tet was traditionally a period of ceasefire and family gatherings. Instead, violence appeared in places long considered secure: cities, administrative centers, areas that symbolized stability. What made the Tet Offensive extraordinary was not just its scale, but its simultaneity. Events unfolded across the country almost at once, creating confusion and disbelief among observers. For American leaders, it was an operational challenge. For the American public, it was something else entirely. The Tet Offensive occurred at a pivotal moment in media history. For the first time, a major war was being brought directly into American homes through television. Images and reports arrived daily, not filtered through long delays or abstract summaries, but as immediate visual experiences. What Americans saw did not align with what they had been told. Instead of calm progress, they saw uncertainty. Instead of clear control, they saw disruption. This contrast created a powerful emotional response. A question began to form in living rooms across the country. If we are winning, why does this look like chaos? That question would prove impossible to ignore. From a strictly military perspective, U.S. and Allied forces retained control of most strategic positions. The Tet Offensive did not result in a sudden collapse of American military capability. But wars are not decided by military outcomes alone. Tet demonstrated that the opposing forces were far more resilient and capable than previously acknowledged. It exposed the limits of statistical measures and optimistic briefings. More importantly, it revealed a growing gap between official statements and lived reality. And once that gap became visible, it could not be closed. After Tet, public opinion in the United States shifted noticeably. Media coverage became more critical. Commentators began asking harder questions. University campuses and city streets saw increasing public demonstrations. For the first time, many Americans were no longer asking how to win the war. They were asking whether continuing it made sense at all. The conflict ceased to be a distant foreign issue. It became a domestic crisis of trust. Confidence, once lost, is difficult to restore, and after Tet, confidence was in short supply. The impact of Tet reached the highest levels of American leadership. Within months, major policy reassessments began. President Lyndon B. Johnson announced he would not seek re-election. Discussions about negotiations gained urgency. Military strategy shifted toward de-escalation. Tet did not end the war overnight, but it ended the illusion that the war could be easily won, or that public support could be maintained without transparency. From this point forward, every decision would be shaped by doubt. The Tet Offensive is remembered not because it delivered a decisive military defeat, but because it transformed perception. It revealed the power of information and misinformation in modern warfare. It showed that public opinion could influence the course of a conflict as much as battlefield outcomes. And it marked the moment when Americans began to see the Vietnam War differently, not as a distant mission, but as a prolonged struggle with uncertain purpose and cost. Tet reshaped the narrative of the war, and narratives, once changed, rarely return to their original form. More than half a century later, the Tet Offensive remains a defining moment. It reminds us that wars are fought on multiple fronts: military, political, and psychological. That control of territory does not guarantee control of belief, and that trust between governments and citizens is fragile. Tet did not simply change the course of the Vietnam War. It changed how America understood war itself. And that lesson continues to echo far beyond 1968.